don't know about this, man. I mean, we're doing like 5 reviews. I think we're going to start running out of ideas. I mean, what we're going to do next?
Well, we need found footage, so I think really we should do Blair Witch. I mean, it's an obvious thing to do.
We can't do that. Topher stole Blair Witch 1 and 2 off you. And like the actual Blair Witch footage, this footage was never recovered.
That's true, I never did manage to get them back, but I did rebuy them off Amazon, so I do have the first Blair Witch project here, so we can split into 2 reviews, how about that? We'll do one for the first one, one for the second film.
Let's do it.
Cool.
Tell me where you are, Josh!
Welcome to Brandex Reviews and our Halloween marathon of found footage films.
So we're going to be doing 5 reviews, as we say. The last one was about the last broadcast film, which was something that you kind of brought along. So
yeah, we talked about a lot of stuff. If you want to know about what, then watch the goddamn review.
Yeah, exactly. So on this one we've got the Blair Witch Project. Now, wasn't there a bit in this with like a gorilla or something in the woods?
No, that wasn't the Blair Witch. We're not talking about anything else.
What was that?
No, we're not talking about. No, we're not talking about it.
There was a scene with a gorilla.
No.
Well, okay, what?
No.
So what's this?
Anyway, this is the Blair Witch, the granddaddy of found footage films. This is pretty much what got the ball rolling. As we showed last time, there are ones kind of before or after this, but this was the one that really brought them into the limelight. Ultimately, it was produced on a shoestring budget, really.
Like 35 grand, I think, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, this film came out in the trail of things like Scream and other like big, like 90s
slasher films where you saw everything pretty much.
They're also quite kind of nod and wink at the camera about all the cliches and stuff. So this was very different. This was something like brand new that we hadn't really had before on a big kind of screen.
Nothing that was this popular as well, but it was kind of prefaced with a whole kind of marketing campaign online. There was a website that declared these people missing, these 3 actors. Well, they were documentary filmmakers, but
yeah, they even went on to IMDb and like it's unclear whether they were in on the joke or not, but they got them listed as missing.
So a bit of cinematic history. It's one of those films I think was a bit of a game changer for the horror genre.
I think it was certainly one of the first times that they showed you just what the internet could do for advertising. I mean, now it's kind of expected, like every damn website you go on has got like big banner posters for this movie and that movie and the other movie, and this one was pretty much the first time that a lot of the word of mouth for this was over the internet. It had its own site where you could go and look at the supposed real evidence from this disappearance.
Of the 3 missing Montgomery College students continues in Frederick County tonight.
10 days and thousands of man-hours have been unable to produce any clues.
We have a few leads, a few other options we want to take advantage of, and just try to put together some pieces to this puzzle.
Do you believe the occult may be involved in the disappearance of your son?
This was late 90s as well, so it was fairly kind of new idea, really, not been done a lot of times before. Something interesting, I know we've been talking about this off camera, but something I not really kind of said. It's interesting that this film came out the same year as The Phantom Menace, because that was a massively, hugely anticipated film with a huge budget, and didn't really leave a lot of inspiration when you went to the cinema. Then you go see this film a few months later, the Blair Witch Project.
Yes, this came out around Halloween in England, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean in America it was in a few months of each other. But this film was like the original Star Wars, a massive game changer for its genre. So
yeah.
It's kind of interesting when you look at that, because you know they blew loads of money on a film like Star Wars, and it just kind of, well, shit. We made a lot of money, but it wasn't a game changer like the original was. Then Blair Witch, something they spent not even $1 million on, and huge impact.
I mean, this was a film that did have an impact. I mean, there were all kinds of memorabilia you could get. You could get books. There was a score to this film. Even though there is almost no music in this film, there was a score. believe that or not.
Well, there was a soundtrack which was supposed to be Josh's like music, like his mixtape or whatever. That was like.
Or is that how they
I think
like,
that's what
rationalised it?
Yeah, I think it was like his. I mean, there's only like one bit in the whole film where there's any music.
Yeah, and that's
like
when they're driving in the car.
And that's probably not even on the sound. I don't know, it might be, but yeah. So the merchandising thing was quite big. I don't think they really.
Yeah, there was
anticipated it.
T-shirts, jackets, flashlights.
There's a porn version as well.
No, we're not
That's where the gorilla came
We're
from.
not. We said
That was
we
it.
weren't talking
I knew
about
it.
that.
I knew that's where I'd seen it before.
I know we're not showing any clips of it.
Oh yeah, like, we're going to show clips of it on YouTube.
I don't trust you. I
That's
know
not-
what you're like.
that's not- I don't even
No.
have it anyway. So
Well, I certainly don't have it.
because I
anymore.
recorded it for you from
Anymore.
Okay, fair enough. So anyway, this is Blair Witch. So let's just play a clip just in case you haven't seen the film. Here it is.
Hang on, I've put the wrong disc in.
Oh my god! Darian! Darian! Darian!
No! 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 No!
That's the wrong one.
No!
Hang on.
You
The disc.
bastard!
Okay, right, switch it off. Right.
If this is Erotic Witch 2, I'm going to kill you.
Book of Shagging. We'll get into that in the next part. Well, so yeah, that's the Blair Witch. I'm sure you've already seen it anyway. So, what else? Well, you want to talk about maybe the stuff like the book that came out.
Well, like I said, there was a lot of stuff surrounding this. There was a documentary, The Curse of the Blair Witch, which again was produced in mockumentary style as if these events had actually happened. And it went into much greater detail about the Blair Witch legend. Unlike the last broadcast last time, this wasn't something they just hijacked like the Jersey Devil. This was something they made up entirely themselves. This isn't based on an actual kind of myth. They basically made the Blair Witch up. And they had like a long train of events, usually happening roughly 60-year intervals, that something would go down. Because they had the 1940s where this serial killer was apparently inspired by the Blair Witch, and 60 years before that, this little girl was like drowned in this really shallow creek, and kind of before that was the actual death of Ellie Kedwood, the Blair Witch, and the apparent return as a ghost where she basically
kidnapped
loads of kids, like made all the kids who had accused her of witchcraft vanish.
And this is all mentioned in the documentary. That was a documentary that aired on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah, where's the
book? Yeah, there's also.
That's it.
Well, I've got a copy as well. We have two copies of this.
Yeah. This was brought out about the same time by Box Tree. It's written by a D.A. Stern. And again, this is presented as much the same way as the film and the documentary. It's presented as if this is real. It's a collection of evidence going into each individual part of the case. There's a section about the footage itself, about the search, about the students, about the legend of the Blair Witch, about Rustin Parr. There's actually Heather's journals included in here where they write up what's actually kind of
handwritten.
Yeah. It's not a bad book, but unfortunately a lot of the information in here is also in the webpage and it's also in the documentary, so there's nothing really in here that you don't get anywhere else. That said, I picked this up for, I think it was about £1 plus postage and packaging, so like £2 something altogether, off Amazon. Also, it has the slight problem of sometimes it will include, scans of like handwritten things which are really hard to like make out.
So
that's not too bad, but sometimes it can get quite tricky to read, especially when it's like a copy of a handwritten note and you're like, what the hell's that saying? The framing device for this is that it's a collection of letters back and forth between Buck Buchanan, this private investigator, and Heather Donahue's mother, who had hired him to look into the disappearance. The guy who's supposedly the centre of this book is also mentioned in The Curse of the Blair Witch, because they have a brief interview with Investigator Buchanan. And like I say, it all kind of fits together into an overall fairly cohesive story of just what happened, when it happened, the legend and everything. So, like I say, you can pick that up very cheap, so if you're into the Blair Witch, it's a nice little addition to the canon But I wouldn't expect anything in there that you haven't already seen on the documentary. But probably at the time, the documentary would have been, what, on the Sci-Fi Channel? Until it came out on DVD, you wouldn't have had access to that, so...
Yeah, the DVD was pretty good. It was one of the early ones. I mean, I got this... I seem to remember we went to Leeds and I'd seen this...
Well, this is actually the third version of this footage that's been found.
Yeah.
The first one broke on you.
Yeah, the glitch. I think it had like a lot of scratches and stuff. Then the second version got stolen by Topher along with Blair Witch 2. And like you said, the footage we never found. So this is the third one that I've had. So when the disc is loose, that's really tempting fate, isn't it? But... yeah, the extras on this, it has some like deleted scenes, it has that Blair
the interactive menu's actually quite good. It's very atmospheric. It's shows like a forest scene and like a flashlight moving around. It's very indicative of the Blair Witch.
Yeah. I don't know if there's any like better versions, like on Blu-ray or anything.
I believe there is a Blu-ray version.
I don't know if there's anything extra.
I don't know if there's anything extra. No, I didn't look into that, but I think it has been released on Blu-ray. Although I think it would be one of those cases of what exactly you're gaining by getting it on Blu-ray, because the footage by its very nature is very low quality.
Well, I think this one's a pirate copy. It looks like it's been filmed on a camcorder or something in like a cinema. Joke.
Yeah, it's the Blair Witch is filmed on a handheld camera and a bigger camera. I think they call it a DAT or something.
Something like that.
Yeah, which is why you have like black and white footages that's a bit better quality.
Yeah.
This is probably the first one that is truly found footage, because it is literally footage that has been found of these. It's not a mockumentary like the last broadcast was. It's literally these people went out in the woods, they vanished. A few months later, their footage was found. That's a really common thing now. But this was in the same bracket as that and the UFO abduction one that was literally... Some people went missing, and this is the raw footage that we've spliced together and decided to show you. It was a film that came out of nowhere, because it did the festival circuit, and it got huge reviews. Another thing this thing started is the night vision filming in the cinema, and all the audience going, "Oh, it's so scary!"
Yeah, they did that on like the TV spots and adverts. I remember at the time.
I mean, you've seen that more recently in films like Paranormal Activity. They do that a little bit in some of them.
Yeah, like promotion.
Like, oh my god, look how scared this audience is.
Well, we had a friend who was so scared he wouldn't even sit next to us. He had to sit behind us.
Yeah, we went to see this in Leeds, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the old Leeds audience, now Primark. And I mean, I remember coming out of the cinema and just like, it just reminded me of two things: Evil Dead, just specifically a bit at the end with the house, which was scary.
And also, there's something you don't see that's scary in the woods, which is also...
Yeah. Well, I'll get to that in a sec. But also, it reminded me of Ghost Watch. Just come out of the cinema and just said, Ghost Watch, BBC 1992 for Halloween.
And I think that was like a general thing of like, shit, I remember that as well. Don't you remember that one?
Yeah, it brought back that kind of like fear that you don't often get. I mean, you don't get like gore things, you just kind of get grossed out. But this was like genuine kind of fear where you really felt for like people that you know aren't real and you still feel shit scared for them.
Yeah, this has lost a little something over the years of like repeated viewing. I mean, watching it now, I wasn't shitting myself. Let's just put it that way. Also, a little bit of the spell has been broken by this point, because at the time, like I said, they went out of their way to sell this up as this is real, this actually happened to people. Nobody really... A lot of people hadn't seen found footage before this, because the few cases of found footage, like we covered last time, that preceded this, were very indie and fringe things, and not a lot of people had seen it.
Yeah, this was heavy.
And actually sitting in a cinema and seeing a footage which is very real, and as if somebody had actually filmed this, with like the cinema kind of experience around you, it did shit you up, because it kind of drew you in. You could hear the sounds all around you and stuff. It was quite effective.
Yeah, I mean, I think the impact of this film as well, like you say, it's inspired a lot of other found footage films that haven't really been all that great. I mean, I do like Paranormal Activity. I mean, I think that, to be fair, I saw 2 and 3 in the cinema, and I had to come home to an empty house, and I was shitting myself. Just the whole, it just put you on edge kind of thing. You know the film's not real, but it just puts you on edge.
It's just that, like, sliver of doubt. You know it's not real, but there's just that tiny little shred of doubt somewhere at the back of your mind, even though you know it's completely irrational, that makes you think this could happen.
Well, films draw you in. It's like you watch Rocky, and it's like, you kind of energise you kind of thing, or something like that. You watch an action film or something like that. You watch like a a film that's like tragic or tragic ending or something kind of upsets you, even though you know it's not real. So the whole fear thing, it works in just the same way. It doesn't mean you think it's real. But
yeah, Blair Witch had the, because you were talking about like classic fears last time and archetypal fears, and
yeah,
this is very much the, you've wandered off and now you're alone and you're lost and you can't find your way back. I mean, anybody who's been like separated from their parents as a kid or something would know what this would be like. Like, I've turned my back in the shopping mall and now I can't find where mum and dad are,
yeah,
or anything like that. It taps into that. And also, this film was unique at the time in you don't see anything. This isn't one of those films where at the end Bagul will go, oh!
It's still
There's
fairly
no
unique,
final jump.
It's still fairly unique. I mean, think of any film that's imitated the found footage thing. You all see, even Paranormal Activities.
Yeah, I was going to say,
like
even Paranormal Activity ends
stuff
with Micah getting his ass thrown at the camera and then Katie doing a demon shark face. Ah!
Yeah.
There isn't anything like that in the Blair Witch. You do not see the Blair Witch.
And a lot of people hate it. Like, it's stupid, it's dumb, you don't see things. It's like, no, it's not stupid and dumb at all. If you just don't gel with that, that's you, but it's not that it's stupid and dumb. You know?
It's just like I said last time, I don't like football films. That doesn't mean that entire genre is crap. It just means I don't like sporting films.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't gel with the concept of your imagination is supplying the scares for you, then you don't gel with it. You know, it's
that's exactly
just
it.
as it is.
You got to
You might not like action films. You might not like sci-fi films. It's just how you are. I mean, nothing wrong with it. There's no right or wrong to it.
So, anything else you want to really add?
Yeah, one thing I wanted to go into is, again, a lot of people did buy into this at the time. You actually got people going down to the real place that was like repurposed as Burkittsville in the film, and praying for the lost film.
That's
crew
just
and stuff.
Americans for you, thinking they'll believe like WWF wrestling.
Yeah, but there was a lot of these, especially the earlier found footage, did tap into that thing that people would believe them. Like the UFO abduction and Internet in Lake County. People actually still think those are real, for God's sakes. It goes back even further than that, technically, because another key example of this is the War of the Worlds broadcast, which was done on radio, and it shit people up in America
the Orson
because
Welles thing.
Yeah, they actually thought it was real. They were listening to a real news broadcast of an alien invasion. They didn't get that it was like a dramatization. The guy actually had to come on on radio and officially apologise because he'd scared so many people bloody witless. And this is, again, it's the same sort of thing. You know, if you come in from a perspective that you don't really know, you might actually be momentarily taken in, and that increases the shitted you up factor.
Yeah.
Which is something you can't really get now because people are just too savvy to this genre. They know what's coming.
I think it's one of them things where they can keep bringing back the found footage thing, but they have to leave it maybe 10 years between.
Yeah, because we were watching one documentary that was talking about it at the time, and the review was pretty much saying, this is a landmark film, they're not going to be able to do this again. Ironically, they did it with Paranormal Activity, but again, they left it quite a while in between.
Yeah.
And in between, you just had a lot of very average, stupid found footage films that nobody really...
was one in particular. Cloverfield was the first found footage film that I'd seen since Blair Witch that I actually liked. I've kind of gone off it since, but it wasn't that it was scary, but it was entertaining.
Yeah, it did found footage in a different way because you actually saw things and it had like a big budget behind it. It was an interesting way of taking a found footage film.
And then there was Paranormal Activity as well, which was around about the same time, and that's had a lot of sequels. And apparently, I think that's going to keep on going as well, but we'll save that for another video.
Yeah, Blair Witch definitely had the... it wasn't already tired, wasn't the idea of idiots wander around a scary location with a camera, and they should really put the camera down now. In the case of the Blair Witch, it's made pretty clear that most of the filming is because it's Heather Donahue's coping mechanism. And it's even brought to the fore at one point, because one of them pretty much says, yeah, looking through this viewfinder of this camera, it's all like different, isn't it? It's like it's not real.
Oh, she says that's all I've got left.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that she can kind of do.
So, I mean, even then, right at the very end, where both her and... Is it Mike? Josh has already disappeared, isn't he? Roaming around what's supposed to be Rustin Parr's house, even though it's burnt down by this point, but they've somehow gone back in time into where the house is still standing or something. I don't really get why they're still running around with the camera when they're looking for Josh, who's like crying out for help. But it works for this situation. A lot of them are like, okay, you're being chased by zombies. Why the hell are you still holding a camera? You shouldn't be holding a camera. You need both hands free to run. What the hell? This is kind of taking me out of the film now that you're still carrying the camera around.
I would have said, do you remember this poster as well?
Yeah, yeah, there was quite a few of those. I mean, again, this was how pervasive it was with the "This is real." You had posters.
I had that poster.
Yeah,
very widely available.
Like, have you seen these people? They've gone missing. They went all out, considering the budget they had to work with.
Again, which is ironic, really, because, like I say, same year as Phantom Menace and the whole merchandise thing, and this was a very low-budget film, and it had just massively exploded like that.
Yeah, I think the one downside of this, though, is it put into a lot of film studios' head, alright, we can make horror films on no budget, make it found footage, and it'll make us millions like the Blair Witch did. It doesn't really work that way.
A lot of them, like you say, were absolute stinkers as well.
Don't.
But,
also, another thing they did with the Blair Witch, which was interesting, is there was an element of realism to it, because they actually took 3 people, okay, they were actors, not film students. They explained their characters to them, they gave them basic ideas of what was going on, and they sent them out into the woods. And when they're waking up in the middle of the night going like, shit, what's that noise? That's actually them waking up in the middle of the night going, shit, what's that noise? I mean, they know something's going to happen, they've been told that. But they don't know, alright, at 2 AM, you're going to hear this weird noise outside that sounds like a baby screaming. They don't know that going in. They know that something's going to happen, but they don't know exactly what, so it does add a little bit more realism to the kind of freak-outs.
So it was a clever way of doing it.
It was a very clever filmmaking kind of tactic by the guys who were doing this. Don't tell your actors exactly what to expect, so when something freaky happens, they're more genuine in their like, Jesus, what the hell was that?
It's been done before, but not to that level, like on just the whole film being like, there's like certain scenes in films, like Thomas Crown Affair, like the bank robbery, that was done with hidden cameras, so like certain reactions were actually real. But yeah, this was like pretty much the whole film. Well, most of it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, they had like direction, like they'd be left drops and like, yeah, this is what we want you to be aiming towards for this day of shooting. But ultimately, most of it was just 3 people in the woods getting scared by
Well, that was a warning when they were actually casting. They said you're going to have to be able to like deal with going into the woods and like having the shit scared at you kind of thing. So
if that doesn't sound like your idea of a good weekend out, don't bother applying.
Yeah. So anything else about this? We're going to be reviewing the second film next.
Yeah, we're probably going to devote their own video to that. Normally we probably wouldn't talk about it because it's not really a found footage film, but it is the Blair Witch, so
yeah,
we
we've
have
got
to.
plenty to say. And there's also a bit more merchandise which I think came out around about the second film, so
yeah,
you can talk a bit about that then. So, is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's it. We'll return tomorrow for our next of our Halloween marathon.
So that's it, brandxreviews.com, and visit the YouTube page as well, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much for watching.
A brutal murder in the Black Hills discovered today. In the past year, the Black Hills area has been overrun with movie fans wanting to get a glimpse of where the Blair Witch Project was filmed.